Ismail Haniyeh, a top leader of Hamas, was assassinated on Wednesday by an explosive device covertly smuggled into the Tehran guest house where he was staying, according to 7 Middle Eastern officials, including 2 Iranians and an American official. The bomb had been hidden approximately 2 months ago in the guest house, according to 5 of the Middle Eastern officials. The guest house is run and protected by the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps and is part of a large compound known as Neshat in an upscale neighborhood of northern Tehran. Mr. Haniyeh was in Iran's capital for the presidential inauguration. The bomb was detonated remotely, the 5 officials said, once it was confirmed that he was inside his room at the guest house. The blast also killed a bodyguard. The explosion shook the building, shattered some windows, and caused the partial collapse of an exterior wall, according to the 2 Iranian officials. Members of the Revolutionary Guards briefed on the incident. Such damage was also evident in a photograph of the building shared with the New York Times. Haniyeh, who had led Hamas's political office in Qatar, had stayed at the guest house several times when visiting Tehran, according to the Middle Eastern officials. All of the officials spoke on the condition of anonymity to share sensitive details about the assassination. Iranian officials and Hamas said Wednesday that Israel was responsible for the assassination, an assessment also reached by several U.S. officials who requested anonymity. The assassination threatened to unleash another wave of violence in the Middle East and upend the ongoing negotiations to end the war in Gaza. Mr. Haniyeh had been a top negotiator in the ceasefire talks. Israel has not publicly acknowledged responsibility for the killing, but Israeli intelligence officials briefed the United States and other Western governments on the details of the operation in the immediate aftermath, according to the 5 Middle Eastern officials. On Wednesday, Secretary of State Antony J. Blinken said that the United States had received no advance knowledge of the assassination plot. In the hours after the killing, speculation immediately focused on the possibility that Israel had killed Mr. Haniyeh with a missile strike, possibly fired from a drone or a plane, similar to how Israel had launched a missile on a military base in Isfahan in April. That missile theory raised questions about how Israel might have been able to evade Iranian air defense systems again to execute such a brazen airstrike in the capital. As it turns out, the assassins were able to exploit a different kind of gap in Iran's defenses, a lapse in the security of a supposedly tightly guarded compound that allowed a bomb to be planted and to remain hidden for many weeks before it would eventually be triggered. Such a breach, 3 Iranian officials said, was a catastrophic failure of intelligence and security for Iran, and a tremendous embarrassment for the Guards, which uses the compound for retreats, secret meetings, and housing prominent guests like Mr. Haniyeh. How the bomb was stashed in the guest house remained unclear. The Middle Eastern officials said that the planning for the assassination took months and required extensive surveillance of the compound. The 2 Iranian officials who described the nature of the assassination said they did not know how or when the explosives were planted in the room. Israel decided to carry out the assassination outside Qatar, where Mr. Haniyeh and other senior members of Hamas's political leadership live. The Qatari government has been mediating the negotiations between Israel and Hamas over a ceasefire in Gaza. The deadly blast early Wednesday shattered windows and collapsed a portion of the wall of the compound, photographs showed and the Iranian officials said. It appeared to do minimal damage beyond the building itself, as a missile probably would have done. At around 2 a.m. local time, the device exploded, according to the Middle Eastern officials, including the Iranians. Startled building staff members, the official said, ran to find the source of the tremendous noise, leading them to the room where Mr. Haniyeh was staying with a bodyguard. The compound is staffed with a medical team which rushed to the room immediately after the explosion. The team declared that Mr. Haniyeh had died immediately. The team tried to revive the bodyguard, but he too was dead. The leader of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Ziad al-Naqala, was staying next door, two of the Iranian officials said. His room was not badly damaged, suggesting precise planning in the targeting of Mr. Haniyeh. Khalil al-Hayya, the deputy commander of Hamas in the Gaza Strip, who was also in Tehran, arrived at the scene and saw his colleague's body, according to the 5 Middle Eastern officials. Among the people immediately notified, said the 3 Iranian officials, was General Ismail Haniyeh, the commander-in-chief of the Quds Force, the overseas arm of the Revolutionary Guards, which works closely with Iranian allies in the region, including Hamas and Hezbollah. He notified Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, in the middle of the night, waking him up, the official said. 4 hours after the blast, the Revolutionary Guards issued a statement that Mr. Haniyeh had been killed. By 7 a.m., Mr. Khamenei had summoned the members of Iran's Supreme National Security Council to his compound for an emergency meeting, at which he issued an order to strike Israel in retaliation, according to the 3 Iranian officials. Tehran had already been under heightened security because of the inauguration of Iran's new president, Masoud Pezeshkian, with senior government officials, military commanders, and dignitaries from 86 countries gathering at parliament in central Tehran for the ceremony. Haniyeh had looked cheerful and triumphant on Tuesday during the swearing-in, hugging the new president after he delivered his inaugural speech, and the 2 men raised their hands together, making the victory sign. In Iran, the method of assassination was the subject of rumor and dispute. The Tasnim news agency, the media outlet for the guards, reported that witnesses said an object like a missile had hit the window of Mr. Haniyeh's room and exploded. But the 2 Iranian officials, the members of the guards briefed on the attack, confirmed that the explosion had taken place inside Mr. Haniyeh's room and said that an initial investigation showed that the explosives had been placed there sometime in advance. They described the attack's precision and sophistication as similar in tactic to the remote-controlled AI robot weapon that Israel used to assassinate Iran's top nuclear scientist Mohsen Fakhrizadeh in 2020. Israeli assassination operations outside of the country are primarily carried out by Mossad, the country's foreign intelligence service. David Barnea, the head of Mossad, said in January that his service was obliged to hunt down the leaders of Hamas, the group behind the October 7th attacks in Israel. It will take time, as it took after the massacre in Munich, but our hands will catch them wherever they are, Mr. Barnea said, referring to the killing of Israeli athletes by terrorists at the 1972 Olympics. Iran has claimed that the assassination of Hamas political leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran earlier this week was carried out by a short-range projectile and a severe explosion outside a guest house where he was staying. This contradicts information told to CNN on Thursday, after a source familiar with the matter said that Haniyeh was killed by an explosive device that had been covertly hidden inside the guest house. The death of the Hamas leader further heightened tensions at an already volatile time, raising fears that Israel's conflict with Hamas and its allies could develop into a multi-front, fully-fledged war in the Middle East. The Iranian government and Hamas say that Israel carried out the assassination. Israel has neither confirmed nor denied its involvement. On Saturday, Iran warned that blood vengeance for the killing was certain. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, claimed in a statement that the short-range projectile that reportedly killed Haniyeh had a warhead of about 7 kilograms, based on investigations and research conducted. CNN's source, who had been briefed on the operation, said that a bomb was concealed about 2 months ago in the guest house where Haniyeh was known to stay in Tehran, and detonated remotely once he was inside his room there. U.S. officials were briefed on the operation by Israeli officials only after the assassination, the source said. This action was planned and executed by the Zionist regime with the support of the criminal American government, the IRGC alleged. Iran calls Israel the Zionist regime. Israel will decisively receive the response to this crime, which is a severe punishment that will come at an appropriate time, place, and manner, the IRGC said. The chief spokesperson for the Israel Defense Forces, IDF, Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, said Thursday that Israel is on high alert for both defensive and offensive military action. IDF forces are deployed in the air, at sea, and on the ground, and are prepared for all scenarios, especially for offensive plans within the immediate time frame, Hagari said. On Wednesday, Hamas political leader Ismail Haniyeh was laid to rest in a solemn Muslim ceremony in Qatar. The burial, attended by close family members and high-ranking officials, marked a poignant moment in the ongoing conflict. The funeral procession moved through the streets of Doha, with mourners chanting and holding banners in remembrance of the slain leader. The atmosphere was heavy with grief and anger, as Haniyeh's supporters vowed to seek justice for what they termed a cowardly assassination. The ceremony itself was marked by traditional prayers and rituals, with an imam leading the proceedings. Haniyeh's final resting place was draped in the Palestinian flag, symbolizing his lifelong dedication to the cause. The sense of loss was palpable, but so was the resolve. Many in attendance spoke of continuing Haniyeh's mission and fighting for Palestinian rights. International reactions to the burial were mixed. While some world leaders called for restraint and dialogue, others condemned the assassination and expressed concern over the escalating violence. The burial has further intensified the already volatile situation, with both sides preparing for potential retaliatory actions. As the sun set on Doha, the echoes of the funeral chants lingered in the air, a stark reminder of the fragile state of peace in the region. Haniyeh's death has undoubtedly left a significant void, but it has also ignited a renewed fervor among his followers. The world watches closely as the Middle East stands on the brink of yet another potential conflict, fueled by grief, anger, and a desire for retribution. If you like these kinds of videos, please like, share, and subscribe to DM Insight.